You're back with Hollywood Hills and LiveX for another Live on Lockdown. Sorry we ran a little bit late today. We were really battling to get the hookup with Jaycee. He's out there in the Bundus. Welcome, Jaycee Nienaber. It was one of the riders we've been dying to chat to. How's life on lockdown treating you, brother?
How's it, Matt? No, things are going well. Yeah, this side. Lockdown has been something else, something new to get used to. But yeah, we're just looking forward to when it ends.
I see you've just been pretty much working the whole way through. I mean, I see probably in the last couple of weeks, you probably got behind the bars and got out there a little bit, but most of the time it's just been graft, eh?
Yeah, I'm one of the fortunate people that could work from home, work right through this lockdown. So, yeah, I appreciate like the company I work for, Spherical Logistics, and yeah, we've been pushing to maintain the company above water, if I can put it like that.
Yeah, us too, brother. Us too. Have you been watching some of the other shows and seeing what all the other guys have been doing on lockdown, especially the guys out on the farms? I mean, I don't really ride that much anymore, and I'm super jealous of those guys.
Yeah, no, definitely. It looks so fun. The farms, the guys that lives on the farms, and has got all this land to ride on. I mean, I live on a plot here. I've got a little 2K track or turn track, if I can put it like that. We've been riding that most of the weekends and just working on my corners and so forth. But yeah, it's just flat. There's no jumps and stuff like that. So it can get a bit boring, but you know, you make up time in the corners, and that's what I practiced.
I was going to say a turn track 2Ks long on your 450. That's somewhere between first and second gear, hey?
Yeah, now and again you hit the third. Got one little straight.
Jace, it's been cool to watch you. Obviously, the last couple of years, you've become the rider that we all knew you would end up being. And obviously, we'll get to some of the high points of your career in the last couple of years. But take us back to the beginning of where it all started. And I see you actually started out the gate with a familiar name as well, and a guy that's kind of stayed with you almost the whole way through your racing career.
Yeah, no, definitely. So me and Cameron Backer, myself on the left, Cameron on the right, we started out when we were very young, and that's, I guess, where the bug bite. And we've been racing together, training together since we were kids, since we were in school, and yeah, we enjoy pushing each other when we were younger.
Yeah.
So I mean, when he was 125, I was 125, and we were just chasing each other.
And you've got to spare a thought for some of the youngsters nowadays. It's great that they've got the GXEC Tour and EWXC and things like that, but you guys went through the full national junior tour, and I think that's why there was so much talent that came out of that series. You know, from you being on the 150 and then moving up to the 125s, it was busy, and most of those guys went on to pretty much turn pro.
Yeah, so I would be happy if they could bring back junior national off-road and so on. I think that's where we developed the riders to do a bit of a better distance and the camaraderie between the riders and so on. You know, just traveling the country, they don't have that opportunity now. The smaller riders, I mean, from what can I say, 50s to 125 or so. We had classes from 50s up to 254 strokes, and that's where it ended. And the racing was tight between us, and I think that developed us as where we are now. We also did, how can I say, a Silver Cup with the senior boys, and also that is a feeding class for us, and it did us very well. It does very well, and I think that's why once I moved up to the senior classes in OR3, I did so well in that class as well.
It's something that actually I've been speaking to a couple of the tours about, because the gap is just too big. And a couple of moms and dads always say, you know, even like you go like 2 seasons back to Matty Wilson on the 85 seniors, and he killed it that year. And then the next year on the 125s, it literally takes them a year. Sometimes it takes kids 2 years to get used to the big track and the big competition and the big bikes.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I feel like they need to make a longer loop for the senior 85 riders. because in my days the senior 85 riders rode with a bigger bikes, the same amount of distance, 30 k's, if I can put it like that, and that fed them to go up to 125 and be able to do the same distance without stress because they're used to it.
Obviously, you're checking out the pictures here, and thanks for sending those. It's so cool to go back. I mean, I remember some of them. I remember these when you were running the J5, and check how skinny you were, a little dude, eh? But you know, those.
Yeah, getting
those,
older
those,
is not good,
yeah.
eh?
No, man, it's don't go down, don't grow up. They say it's a trick. But this is probably one of your last years riding in the juniors, hey? Before you went up into the full senior tour.
Yeah, that was my last race, riding for Hans Glockel's team, Manhand, and yeah, that was a great time, Storm. Great time junior national. It was quite a moment to, you know, it's your last time with the junior boys, and now you have to step up to the big boys, if I can put it like that.
But like you said at the beginning of the chat, it wasn't you know it wasn't like stepping up because maybe you went up and there was a few guys there that stayed on to the categories that you moved up into, but pretty much all you young kids moved up at the same time, and that's when things were super cool, kind of like 2014, 15, 16, where all of you guys came out of the junior ranks and all of a sudden you just couldn't move on the start line.
Yeah, I think like Lo Schmidt and Ruan Smith, Darren McLeod, we all sort of moved, even Gerald Camphor, we all moved the same time to seniors. And there we were pushing each other once again. So the competition didn't change, it's just the class.
Bikes changed though, and that was when you were kind of getting used to the 254 strokes. I think you'd been on the 254 strokes in the last maybe 1 or 2 years of your junior riding. And then when you came up, you kind of stuck with the same bike, and it looked like you were on Yamahas for a very, very long time.
Yeah, so I started off on that CRF 150 doing some junior races and then stepped up to a YZ 125. And I stayed on Yamaha till I think beginning of 2016. And then I moved over to KTM.
Yeah, let's just go before we get to the KTM days. Let's just go from Manhand into the DNH squad because that was where you started to, I think, make a name for yourself. You kind of set yourself a hard task as well. I remember you running that board out 250 to try and run with the 350s, but it was that time of the
Yeah, I really enjoyed my YZ 252 stroke for in 2014 and 2015. I pretty much had to make it faster than a standard one just to try and keep up with the guys. But I must say I enjoyed that bike. I pushed it as hard as I could. I did the best that I could. And you know, I always came short with the national championship, always ending second. But you know, it develops you as a rider, riding a two-stroke. And yeah, you catch the guys in the tight stuff and in the corners, but yeah, on the straights, they just pull underneath you. Yeah, so I rode under Super Moose for a bit, for 2 years, sorry. Yes. So once I moved over to KTM, they got on board and supported me and helped me out for about 2 years. I was